Today we'll be discussing basically the title obviously is Photorealism in Fusion 360, and we'll be going through rendering options in Fusion 360. So to get us started, I would like to start with what's going on here. Oh, I'm in the wrong view here, sorry. Okay, to get us started, I would like to just take a quick little poll here. And this is the question, and the poll will, the question will launch here in a second on the next, whoops, I lost, oh, here we go. I'll launch the poll here in a second, but these will be your options here, right? So to get us started, I'd just like to get your, everyone's opinion on which option, which image looks best. So for the options, A will be sync when you see the poll question come up. B will be just a plain background. C will be this hair dryer, which will be our model, the model I'll be using this morning. C will be ground, and D will be this desk. Okay, so take a good look, and when I launch the poll, and I'm gonna launch it now, just let me know which one you guys think looks best. Okay, so you guys should be seeing the poll right now. Yeah, we're getting the votes coming in. So I think there's a few people maybe who haven't voted. And you can see the image, or what was there, was kind of a smudgy, cracked hair dryer. And I'll get into that in a little bit here. All right, so let's see the results. Okay, and I think you guys can all see the results now. And it looks like most people have picked desk, the D. Basically, the purpose of the poll was to get a photorealistic rendering. I think the best thing to do is to put your model or your subject in an environment, right? Not surprisingly, actually surprisingly, B did a little better than A and C. B came out okay, but I think with no context, no background, or no background basically, I think A, C, or D probably look better than B. But maybe it's just too dirty for you guys. Maybe that's the reason. So basically we'll be discussing how to make these images here, how to get these renderings. So let's get our PowerPoint here, and let's jump right into Fusion. So let's start with this hair dryer. So for the rendering environment, let me maximize the screen. We need to leave the design environment or design workspace, and let's jump over to the render environment here. Oops. And you see the toolbar changes. And the first thing I want to discuss is appearance, right? That's this first tab, first option here. So when we go into appearances, we have the appearances that are in the library here, as you can see. Let me close this up. And we have a few tabs here. So we have the Fusion 360 appearances. We have my appearances, which I basically saved. These are my own personal appearances that I've saved and kind of edited for myself. But under the Fusion 360 appearance, these are all the options that are available to you guys. And you may notice that if I go into some of these, you'll see this little download option here, right? So this means you do not have it locally yet, and you won't be able to use it in your scene until you hit the download option like that. Right? You can see it's downloaded and the download symbol's gone away, which means I have the option to put it in my design here. Okay, I don't want cloth in this one, but let's go down to maybe plastic. And I'm going to drag the ABS option into this design portion here, or I can also drag it right into my model. And it's warning me I have appearances already, so it's warning me I'm gonna that they'll be removed. And you can see changes to the option I have here, the ABS white. You can also, right now it's defaulted to bodies and components, but I can change the faces, and that's what I've done earlier. Let me change the body first. So I'm going to drag my own edited personal enamel glossy, and then I can change the face, and I can drag the yellow one over here to these other faces, right? Let me turn this around, and I can even drag it to these two faces here. Now, the nice tip I can give for you guys, and I highly recommend you guys do this, is if you are going to use this ABS white, what I recommend you guys do is, me personally, I don't like changing the default one that came with the Fusion 360's Appearances tab here. What I'll do is I'll right click on it, I'll select duplicate, and then I will edit this one, leaving the default one alone. Kind of a little OCD thing of mine where I don't want to mess with the default settings that came out of the box in case I want to see what the default was. So basically, once I've created a copy, I could take the one that was in the scene, the original one, and I could just delete it from my design. You didn't lose it from your library, but it is still part of your design here. And then what you can do is you can come in here and edit it. Right? You can rename it. And let's select done real quick. And then I could just, again, use these as, use the default one here as my own. And the other thing I would recommend is to right click on it and then say copy to my appearances. And that's what I've done here. There's mine. I would just put mine or mine in there so I don't get confused, because what's tough to display is which ones, like if you have multiple scenes or multiple appearances in here, you won't know which ones are being used and which ones aren't. And the one way you can't find out which ones are being used is to say delete all unused, and you'll see the red on the other ones go away. And you can also right click on it and say select objects applied to, right? And you'll see which face or body is using that particular appearance, right? And let me say the appearance here, we're talking material appearances, right? I don't want you guys to be confused with physical appearances, which is in the design workspace. So the physical appearances will be used for things like FEA and simulation. So you can have your physical appearance, but change the material appearance, right? So you can have aluminum, but make it look like plastic. But if you run simulation, it'll go based off the physical appearance and physical material, not the material appearance. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about editing your appearance now. So if you right click on it, and if you right click on appearance and go to edit, so it brings up this options window, and you can see we have a couple options here. We have the roughness. If we zoom in, oops, let me zoom in before I go. Changing the roughness. All right, you can see the glossy is pretty smooth, so the roughness texture isn't very visible to the naked eye here. And we also have a reflectance setting. So you can make it kind of a matte finish, but still make it a little more reflective. Now to take this a step further, I can go to the Advanced tab. Actually, let's zoom out a little bit here. Oh, no, let me zoom back in. Let's go to the Advanced tab. And what we can also do here is we can add kind of a texture to this, right? So I'm going to go to select the relief bump option, and it can take me out here, and I've downloaded some textures. Let's use this ABS texture that I have ready. You can see it's applied to the face. But one thing you'll notice, we have these seams going on here. And if we click on the image, it takes us to like another submenu. And here's where we can change some of the settings of that texture, right? So to get rid of the seams, you can change the sample size, just make it larger. You can see kind of the seams go away. And the ABS texture is a little rough, and that's because of this depth option. You'll notice if I go a little lower, let's say maybe 1 millimeter, texture looks a little more realistic now. When we zoom out, it's kind of hard to see, but if we zoom in, you can definitely see there is definitely texture to this, and that's kind of what some of the ABS textures look like. And just as a note, if you want to change the texture, we click on the source here. And just to give you an idea of how this works, let me use this one here. I'm going to use this Adventures image I have, and watch what happens. You'll notice it says Avengers right there. So you can almost use any image to change the texture on your appearance. I thought that's kind of interesting there. Let me change that back to the ABS texture. And we'll hit done, and we'll apply. I'm not going to talk about all these other options, but we will talk about emissivity later, whether an appearance is emissive or not, which means basically it's going to give off light as far as in the context of Fusion 360. Okay. You'll notice in that image that we used earlier, in the poll, the image had some smudges and some cracks in it, right? And I think most people in the other rendering kind of webinars I've done, even other products like Inventor, usually people like to have some kind of clean. So I wanted to go a little different route where it's kind of a beat up, worn hair dryers that I tried to present there in those renderings. And the way I did that was I used decals here. Okay, so we go to the decal option, and I'm going to insert from my computer. The first one I used was, I have decals here. These are some of the decals I've downloaded from just a typical Google search, right? So the first one, let's just do a crack here. Okay. So once you select the decal, Fusion would want you to select a face. I'm going to select the face here. Let's turn it around. And now we're presented with some of these options here as far as size and scale, right? We can drag it around. We can rotate it. It looks a little big, a little overwhelming. You can see you can also use the box here, but I think if you learn to use the grips here on the screen, it's a little easier to manage. We turn that around, and we'll say OK. So I can't see the decals right now because I've turned them off. So that's all I did with these other decals. So let me turn them on now. Okay, so basically I added this oil drip here, and maybe because this oil drip, maybe that's why this hair dryer got smudged. Someone left a fingerprint, and you can see these other kind of more subtle kind of spots to make it a little more worn down. All right, so decals are really nice. The other decal I used was this Hagerman logo right here. And if you ever wanted to edit it, all you do is right click on it and say edit decal, right? And we're back into the grips option here where we can, again, resize, rotate, drag around and translate it and move it. The other thing I want to talk about is this chain face, right? If I keep it checked, which I think is the default, you'll see the logo goes across multiple faces here. But if I uncheck it, it's only going to be isolated to but one face. Let me cancel that. Okay, so just remember about the chain faces option here. And then, so what you can do now is go right into the rendering option. If this is kind of what was option B in our poll earlier, right? All I do is add some decals and without any background or just a plain colored background rather, and I'll get into how to change the background here shortly. This is just with no background and just kind of default lighting. I went into this render option. Okay, we'll come back on rendering a little bit later, but at this point you could render this if you wanted. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about was this texture map controls here. And for that, let me go back into appearances. I think it's best displayed with how that option works. It's best displayed with the carbon fiber one. All right, so I'm going to add carbon fiber. Let's just add it to the whole body here. Okay. So we do have options of changing the roughness and rotation here, but this will be changing the appearance of your appearance that you've created, as opposed to using this texture map controls here. It's sort of an override and it won't affect your appearance that you saved. And the way this works is right now the default is automatic, but I'm going to select the body or the component that I'm trying to change the texture on. And again, default's automatic, but we have these other options like planar, box, spherical, and cylindrical. And the option you want to select is based on your object, right? What is it most closely representative of? Is it a box? Is it just a flat face maybe? Spherical or cylindrical? So if we select planar, you'll see what happens. And right now it's asking me, wants me to select an axis here. Once I select the axis, you'll see I presented with these grips. And these grips will let me kind of change the direction and angle of the texture, right? And the reason you want to do that is, let's go, it'll be more obvious for box, right? So you can see the box, you can kind of see these seams if you use the box option. No matter how you turn it, you can see the texture, this transition isn't very smooth. So box is probably what, you probably wouldn't want to use box. You probably wouldn't want to use spherical either, right? Because you can see it's all curvy. And again, the transitions aren't very good. Same with cylindrical. You still see the seam there. So in this case, the best option is probably just automatic, right? It's not bad, but out of all the options I'm presented with, that's probably the best one. So if you ever need to change your texture, right, the angles and the size, you want to use texture map controls, or if you want to change the style altogether, you can change it by right-clicking on this appearance and changing the scale here or the rotation here, okay, and even the roughness. All right. One of the things the other thing I wanted to show you was, let me see, where is? No, I don't want to copy. Let's see. So this is the one being used, I think, right? Oh no, we overrode it. I'm sorry. Let me bring that back over. All right. So another way you can use the texture is as follows. This is a little extreme, but as you can see, I have the cracks in here. Another way to do that would be to use the bitmap as a crack. So let me just use this one here. You see the cracks are texture now on my model here. And you can see it's a little extreme. So again, if we change the scale on this, and basically it's the depth, right? So if we go 0.01, maybe not deep enough, try 0.1. You see we have some cracks there. So that looks like kind of shattered glass. There's a lot of cracks in there. So that's another option to kind of give us this kind of the beat up kind of look here. Maybe if we even go Let's try 20. Oh, no, that's too deep. I think if we change the sample size, it might be better. Okay, and you can see the cracks in there now. So maybe not too realistic, but if you can find an image that displays that better, it's another option. Using the decal and the relief pattern here with the correct bitmap will kind of give you a realistic kind of image. Let me just hold on to that. Okay, so let's back out of this. All right, that's fine. All right. So as far as appearances, the other thing I want to show you guys is in this window, as you start adding appearances and changing appearances, you may get a whole bunch in here of appearances, right? And a lot of these aren't being used. So it becomes kind of confusing which one is used and which one is not in your present scene. So I think another thing I recommend you guys do is right click in this part of the window where it says in this design, and we want to delete all unused. Right, so you can see I'm only using 2 appearances here, so narrow those choices down. Okay, let's go back to the scene settings. Let's jump into scene settings now, yeah. So for that, we're going to use a different model I have here. So the first option was no background. Now, the other 2 options I like to go is, I like to show you guys is using your own wall and floor, right? Or using an environment background, and we'll get into that a little bit here. But the first option is using a wall and floor. So, I don't have my bodies turned on. All right, so in this one, I just have it turned off right now. I'm going to turn on the wall and floor. Right, you can see again these images that I've rendered. Let's go through some of them real quick. That's depth of field. So here's an image again with no background. This is a depth of field. I'll get into that in a minute. That's a scene setting option. You can see the foreground is in focus, but the background is out of focus. Just an extreme example of depth of field. We'll come back to that in a minute. This one is custom lighting that I've created. And you can see, again, I think having your own floor or having some kind of background is definitely makes the image look better in my mind. Maybe the poll didn't completely represent that, but so here is that hairdryer again with kind of different light settings. And just look at a few others. Here's a clean hairdryer that I've done. And these last 3 are with custom lighting. And I'll show you how to make your own lighting here shortly. Okay. And here's a real dark one, and here's another one with the wall and floor. You can see kind of reflective on this image, whereas this one I didn't really have any reflection going on there. So let's get into this one now. All right, so let's go back into appearances. And what I did with the floor here was, again, I just downloaded this. I'm sorry, the asphalt I did not download. That is a default. Where is it? I can't remember where it is, but you can always search for it, I believe. Oh no, asphalt is downloaded. Okay, but in the same way I applied the textures earlier, I was download the asphalt image. All I do is you can just search for asphalt or concrete or tile or what have you, and you can download it, right? And then I'll show you how to, let me duplicate this. I don't want to mess up this asphalt one. So again, I'm just gonna take the asphalt one, I'm gonna edit it. We'll go into the advanced, and instead of using the asphalt image, I'm going to use a different image now. So I'm going to go into the sub menu. Once you go to the sub menu, click on the source here, and I can use, these are some of the other floorings I've downloaded here. And I think I even have, yeah, we can use this floor tiles. Let's use this one. We'll say done and apply. So we have that image prepared. And all we need to do is, whoops, let me click faces. if I drag the asphalt, well, let me rename it now. Let's call it tiles. If I drag it over now, you can see it's going to select the whole body, all the components there. We don't want that. I just want the ground plane to be tiled, right? And for the wall, we can change the color, or I believe I'm using this one, just a matte paint finish here. And again, if you want to change the color, we can go in and edit it. You can see it's editing in real time. Or you can create our own, like I've done earlier. Just get out of that. All right, so once you get your appearances set, let me zoom in a little bit. Let's go into the scene settings now to set up the rest of the scene. So you'll notice right away that I have these kind of these black bars on the side. That's because of my aspect ratio. This is kind of a preview of what it would look like when you do the rendering. So if you go 1-to-1 square, you'll see it's a square image, and you'll just have to place your subject within the lighted area here, and the dark areas will not be rendered, right? You have 4:3 presentation. You can do a portrait image, but typically I like to work in this viewport aspect, just so I just have more real estate to work with. Okay, so let's go into some of these settings now. So in the scene settings, you'll see we have the scene settings and environment library tab. So the way the lighting works is it defaults to whatever environment you're working in. And you'll see if I drag over to cool light, you'll see the lighting changes. And you can drag the environment over to the current environment up here, or you can even drag it onto the scene, I believe. Okay, and you can see it's dry lake bed. So you can use any of these default environments and lightings that are included with Fusion. And basically, these are what are called HDRI files. What it contains is if, for example, this field, if I zoom out and I go to environment, I am in the field environment right now. Right. So if I look around, we'll see that we're in the field, and it basically comes with the lighting intelligence in the HDR file. And the HDRI file, let me go here, let me bring this over here, give me a second. Okay, so here's a website I recommend. All you have to do is search for HDRI images downloading Google, and there are many sites you can go to, but I believe this is probably the best one. There are other ones that you'll have to kind of register to download, but at Polyhaven you don't need to, right? You can just browse these HDRIs right now, and they have loads in here, so you can always look at any of these and download them, right? So whereas some of the other sites, again, you have to register and give your email, and some you even have to pay for. So this is a real good site here, so I recommend you guys go here to get your images, if they're your backgrounds rather, your environments, if the ones that come with Fusion aren't enough for you. Basically, if we just pick one here, what we have is the image, the environment that you're in, plus kind of what it would look like under these different textures, right? So if you're using glass, your object would kind of show these types of reflections. This sort of a kind of a maybe matte plastic, this sort of a glossy plastic, and here's metal. So give you a rough idea of what the reflections would look like in your model. And if you go to Polyhaven here, the other thing they have are textures. You can always Google textures, right? That's what I did. I got a couple from here, but you can use some of these other textures that are on this site as well. Okay. And I've actually never looked at these models. Oh yeah. These models are nice, but they're not in a format that Fusion can read. I believe these are like Blender files. So that's a real good site. So that's where I got a lot of these environments that I have, and these environments that you've seen in the other one. For example, this one, this rendering is a garage, I believe, environment, and we'll do the environment later. But for now, I'd like to stick with the solid color setting. basically what's happening now is it's using the lighting from the field, right? Even though we can't see the field because we'd be zoom in here, right? But the lighting intelligence is still there. And we can always change the brightness. We can change the color of the background. Again, the background is here and we're not really seeing it, so it doesn't really matter for this particular scene. We have the ground plane. Again, these options are more if we're using one of those environmental backgrounds, right? Since I'm using my own background, well, let's come back around to this when we go to the using environment. All right, we have a camera perspective. Those of you, probably most of you guys use Fusion or Inventor, so you're probably familiar with the difference between perspective and orthographic. Basically, perspective is when we're zoomed out, all the image will come to a point. So, for example, if you had railroad tracks in perspective mode, the railroad tracks would come to a point as opposed to orthographic, where they'd be kind of running more parallel, right? So that's the difference there. And again, these settings are, if you're maybe a photographer or amateur photographer, that's basically what we're looking at here in these settings, is the focal length of, let's say, what a camera would be seeing. You can see it gets really distorted with the change in the focal length here, kind of like a fisheye lens. And this is basically exposure setting here. So brightness is how bright your picture is, but the exposure is how much light you actually will let into your camera, right? So if you ever heard of the term like overexposed, that's kind of what we're looking at here, or whitewashed, I believe, is what they use, photographers use. And you may have heard of something like underexposed. So basically you want the exposure to match, I guess, the lighting you're trying to represent. Right? If you're trying to represent a bright environment, right, you don't want to kind of underexpose it like this. So just use your eye. It just looks kind of what's pleasing to you. It's probably the best advice I can give. Okay. All right, so let's talk about, this would be a good time. Whoops, I'm lagging here a little bit. This is probably a good time to talk about now the rendering options. We have a couple options here, and the easiest one is probably if we just go to render, right? If we hit render now, we can render this image, and you see we have some options. We can use a cloud renderer or a local renderer. The cloud renderer is the rendering. If I hit render now, you can see it says 1 credit required. And it's basically setting up to the cloud where Autodesk computers will be doing the cloud rendering for you, and then it'll show up down here in your rendering gallery. Right? But you can see it does cost 1 credit. I believe if you guys have, if you're on subscription, I believe some cloud credits might be, don't quote me on this, but I believe cloud credits may be included with your subscription. If not, you can contact your Hageman representative and we can help you get some cloud credits. I definitely recommend it if you're going to do some high, what's the word I'm looking for? The final, I guess, or I guess what I'm getting at is you can use a lot of horsepower in your machine, and it can definitely lag your machine out if you use a local renderer. So if you're a busy person, you can send it to the cloud, render it, and it'll send it back, and you won't use any resources from your own computer. We can change the image size. If you go to web, we have some default settings already. Let's go to local renderer. So if you use the advanced settings, like I said, and you go to excellent, and you try to render now, this could take a while. I believe on my computer, and I have a decent computer here. It's pretty new with a very good video card and I like an i9 processor. Even this rendering basically has 3 objects: has the this hair dryer and the wall and the ground. And rendering on my machine on the highest settings, I believe took about 20-30 minutes. So if you don't want to use that processor time and the resources, again, use a cloud renderer. Okay. But the web, basically these are just default settings, just kind of quick settings you can use. But I'll typically go to the custom, And I'll pick my image size myself here, and I've been using this big print size, so it's the biggest image. The aspect ratio, again, this is from the scene settings I was saying earlier. And again, if you want to preview, you can go back to the scene settings and give you an idea of what it would look like, right? And you can even have a transparent background if you wanted, and you can hit render. I'm not going to do that now, obviously. But we can also do this in canvas render here, right? And basically it gives us a preview in real time. So hope it's not lagging out, but you can see the image already immediately starts getting better, and it's going to start rendering on screen again in real time, and it's going to keep rendering until I get to this slider here. Right now it's not excellent, but let's come down to here. Let's try to slide it down a little bit so I get kind of an idea of what the rendering will look like, but it doesn't take too long to render, right? And you can see it's going to make a few iterations to get to this point. And basically, the higher you go on this bar, on this slider, right, the less grainy it will look. These images, again, down here, were set on the highest setting. And you can see it's not very grainy, as what you can see on the screen now. And we have an in-canvas render settings here. Right now I'm on advanced. You can use this fast option as well and turn the resolution down. And it'll be a little quicker as you rotate your model, but I typically like using the advanced and changing the resolution maybe down a little bit and changing the slider. And this seems to be quick enough for my machine. Again, your mileage may vary depending on your computer and how fast it is. So, and typically I don't like to work in the in-canvas rendering environment because I don't know, it's just kind of bothersome. But when but you will need it for these couple options here, and that option being, if you noticed in my model, I have a couple of options here, a couple other models I've put in here, right? I have panel light, this is my own lighting, and I'm not gonna turn on the bulb now, we'll come back around to that in a minute. But I have my own lighting I've created. All I do is create an extrusion here. Excuse me. And what I've done with this is, if I go into scene settings, okay, and I turn the brightness all the way down, and I turn on the in-canvas rendering, okay, you can see I have my own lighting now, right? And if I go back into appearances, there's the LED panel. And another tip here is I've created two more appearances of this LED panel and this LED sphere. And that's for the other bulb here, we'll get to in a minute. And I've renamed them because if I didn't name them, I get confused on which appearance is associated with which model. So try to put an intelligent name on your appearances. Definitely helps a lot, at least for me. So I'm going to go ahead and let's edit this panel. Right? So we can change the luminance here. Let's go to advanced with the slider, might be a little easier. So we can change the, it's under emissivity, right? We can change the lighting here, the luminance. And I'm not sure what these units are, but something per meter, CDs per meter squared, I guess it is, I don't know. And you can see I can turn the brightness up and down on this. Maybe that's a little too bright. Okay, and the way I've created this is if we go back to the Fusion appearances and we look under, yes, miscellaneous, you'll see we have these emissive appearances, right? Let me drag the blue up here. And again, I don't like to mess with the default appearance. So again, I like to come here, duplicate it. You see it lags a little bit because I have in-canvas rendering going on. And I'm going to delete that one. So this is LED blue, which is say mine. Whoops. And turn, let's get out of that. And if I just drag that over, So you can drag it onto the whole body. Oh, let's not do that. Let's go face instead. You can see I got a message here. Okay, all I do is select it to the face here, not to the whole body. And now if I come here, edit it, I can turn the slider up. And you can see now I have a blue lighting there. And you can do this by using the default emissive materials here. But all they've really done is taken a regular, let's say, regular appearance, gone to advanced, and all you do have to do is turn on the emissivity, right? And then change the filter color. So if we click on that, let's change this to red or orangish, and we'll hit apply. Okay, that's not to be confused with this color. This color is when there's no luminance. This is the color you'll see here, right? So you can create your own lighting by just using this emissivity option on any appearance. Let's turn that down. Let me cancel that rather. Okay, and I've done that even with this bulb here, right? It's just a round sphere that I've used, and you can see it's emitting light from all directions, kind of how a light bulb would. So just wanted to show you that you can use almost any object to do that. Right? And again, for this, to create your own lighting, what you would have to do is, go to scene settings, turn your brightness all the way down, and then make sure you have in-canvas rendering on. If I stop it, you'll see I really don't have, it's not rendering anything, right? If you do render, you will get an image similar to what we see here. Okay, so and then you can also obviously go back to the design workspace and change the location of the panel and this bulb if you want, right? Now the other option I'd like to talk about right now is, actually let me turn off rendering, and let's bump up the lighting for our scene here, because I'd like to talk about some of these other options. The other option I want to talk about right now is the depth of field. To do that, let's do this. Let me bring the browser here. Depth of field, if you're a photographer, you probably, maybe a lot of you guys understand what depth of field is, but let me just demonstrate it. Let me just bring this lamp in here. Let me slide it over here, and we'll say okay. So basically what the depth of field does is, if we select the depth of field option, right, you can see it says depth of field effect will only be visible when ray tracing is enabled. And that's basically the in-canvas rendering is all they're saying. So the first is you want to select your center of focus. Right, so let me zoom in here. So you can see this little dot is a center of focus. I can move that around. And then I can change the blur setting here, right? And you'll notice, let me turn the in-canvas rendering on so we can kind of see what's going on here. If I turn it on high, okay, you'll see that the hair dryer, and it's hard to tell in this view, but the hair dryer is in focus, but the lamp is not. And if we use a lower setting, both become more in focus. So that's all I've done in this image here. Is this the image? Yeah. You see the lamp is in focus, but the hair dryer is not, and that's just using that depth of field option. Okay. And of course now we can render it if we want. Again, not going to for the sake of time. And again, this image is based on the emissivity option that I was just using a few minutes ago. Okay, let's jump to this one here. So now that we've talked about doing a rendering with no background, we've spoken about doing a rendering with your own wall and floor. Now I'd like to talk about doing a rendering with an environment that you download, or maybe an environment that you've that Fusion 360 comes with, right? That's what these images represent here, right? Me personally, I kind of like this one because it's kind of a grungy kind of environment here. The hairdryer kind of looks smudged and cracked and worn. So I kind of like that. That's kind of my personal favorite. This one, I'm showing you the turntable option. You'll see if you go back to rendering, one of the options, where is it? Can you get it? Is it from here? Maybe it's after you create the image. So after you create the image, pull this image up, you have this rendering a turntable, right? And all that will do is this. That's what you see here, turntable. So it doesn't make sense maybe in this background, but maybe for this option you want no background. And you can see the other renderings that we saw earlier in our poll here, right? So let's go on. Let's discuss on how we can do that. So we'll go back into scene settings again. And now instead of using the solid color option, we're going to use environment. And once we use the environment option, you'll have to place, so between, let me go back to design, between the move option here, right, and go back to rendering, the orbit option, or the view cube option here, and in the scene setting, position option, you'll have to place your setting, your model appropriately in the view that you want, right? You can see I'm zooming in and out. I'm enlarging. I am zooming in and out, but it's giving it makes it look like the hair dryer is growing in size because of this background here, right? We have this rotation option. Basically, all this does is, if you look at watch the shadow here, right? You see the shadow is rotating, as opposed to if you use the view cube, the lighting stays in position, the shadow does not move, but we are like walking around the room. Is kind of the difference between the rotation here and using the view cube or the orbit. Okay, let me get out of that. The other thing is the ground plane. The ground plane doesn't make a whole lot of sense when using a solid color, but if you use the ground plane option, if I turn it off, right, basically it doesn't really look like it's your object is lying on the ground, on the floor. And to do that automatically, just like ground plane, to bring up the option, and you can either move the ground up and down like this, right? If I move it above the object, you see it disappears. Or if you use flatten ground, the object will automatically sit on the ground, right? And what that'll do is, now when I zoom in and out and I pan and turn, I'm moving the whole environment, right? If I don't hit flatten ground, there's a little different behavior. I'm zooming in and out. The model only is zooming in and out, and the background is not. And the other option, let's go to flatten ground again. The other option is maybe reflections, right? The reflection, whoops, doesn't really make sense in this environment. But if you had maybe a glossy finish or a marble floor, you'll see the reflection off the ground there, right? And you have the roughness option, which again depends on the textured floor here. So me personally, I like to use this. I like to use my own ground plane. I'm sorry, I like to pan my model around myself, put it in the correct position. All right, so for this scene, maybe here, try to get it in scale. And then what I'll do is I'll move the ground. You see the shadow moving. So it looks like it's just underneath. Maybe right around there. All right, and now we're ready to render. And I forgot to show you how to get to the background. Let me just bring one up. So when we go back to the environment library, what we need to do is come down here and then we can attach a custom environment, right? And if we go to some of these environments I've downloaded, these are the environments I've downloaded so far from that Polyhaven website I've shown you guys earlier. And let's say we can just browse and let's use, I don't know, bathroom. That's the one I used in one of those images, right? And again, the bathroom, when you use these HDRI files, these environment files, it comes with the lighting intelligence already built in. All right, so what I did was I moved it up here, lay it down, change the scale, and I believe I have to go into the design environment to move and rotate in the proper orientation to get it sit right. Is that what I did? Yeah. You can see it doesn't match the image here, right? So in this one, I did this and I just turned it around. Okay, so we covered the depth of field, we covered the emissive. I think that's pretty much all I had. So hope you guys learned something. Any questions? Any questions come in over here, Kev? Doesn't look like, right?
Nothing has showed up in the panel at this point. That was really informative. That was pretty neat.
So yeah, let's give guys. We'll give you guys a few minutes to see if you have any questions. Let's see. Yeah. So while we're waiting on questions, yes, all I did was here. I went to again back to the design environment. I did a move. Whoops. Let's use that as our option. I think I rotated it. I think we need to rotate it something like that. We'll say OK. We can go back to the rendering environment. And we can kind of place it. The angle's messed up too as well. But I think you guys get the idea.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, still no questions.
No,
yeah, the Polyhaven is a good site. What's that, Kev?
Not at this point. No questions so far.
Okay. I'm sure there must be something I left out. What else can I show you guys? As long as we're waiting. We went over texture map controls. We did the in-canvas rendering. Oh, and if you go, you can also bump up the in-canvas rendering option to excellent or final even. It's going to take a while. And alternatively, you can maybe get a screenshot and capture the image on screen. Or what I like to use is this, uses the screenshot. Take a screenshot even if you wanted after the rendering is complete. Okay. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention is when you guys come and use the decals, one thing I did leave out was when you use these decals and you download them. So what I did was, let's go back, we'll say Smudge Images. Okay, you can see some of the images here. One thing I do think you guys need to do is if you ever download, you want to get a transparent image, right? And if we go to Tools, Color, we have this transparent option. So if we click on it, but a lot of these, when you click on the image, this is a transparent image, but again, you need to log in for a free trial and all those other things, right? Which I hate doing. So if you want to use this as a smudge, you can see it's transparent. But again, if we go here and we want to download it, well, I guess what I'm getting at is just get any image you want And what the tool I use to make an image transparent, and this is just not just for rendering, but if you do PowerPoint presentations or maybe Word, just go change image to transparent. I think is all you need, right? And you get these free links. Oh, here's the one. This one I use, LunaPic, right? You just choose your file here. See if I have a file. Let's say this one. This one's not transparent, right? You can see it's going to change it to transparent for us. It's backwards here, but so you can make it transparent, and you can download it again. And
Nice.
yeah, so you can just use an online tool for free to take any image and make it transparent. So that's another good tip there. So all right, if we don't have any other questions, we're coming up on the hour here. I think we're ready to wrap up. Any last minute questions? Anyone? No? Okay, very good. So I think we're ready to wrap up here, Ash. If you want to add something.
Okay. No, I don't have anything to add, just to let you know that there is a short survey that will pop up as we close down. And also, you will receive an email tomorrow with a link for the recording of the presentation. And I don't see anything else popping in, so we'll go ahead and close. But thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great day, everybody.
Right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kev, Ash.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.